Today he had lost the battle to remain charitable. Prioress Eleanor had deeply offended him. A knock at the door disrupted his thoughts. He was grateful. A nun escorted Prioress Eleanor into the chambers, bowed to the leader of Rye Hill Priory, and left without a sound. Prioress Eleanor, hands folded and eyes lowered, stood quite still in front of the seated Prioress Eleanor. Nearby, a hearth fire snapped, then bravely flared, but gave forth only a little warmth. The silence grew oppressive, and Brother Thomas became impatient. The leader of Rye Hill Priory had yet to offer his prioress a chair, a rank discourtesy. There was no reason why Prioress Eleanor should treat a woman her equal in worldly rank, and surely her superior in God's service, like a wayward nun called to confront her sins and be rebuked. He knew it was not his place to express outrage, but his self-control was rapidly weakening. "Please sit," the Prioress of Rye Hill said at last, her tone as icy as the air. She pointed to a stool in a corner. Thomas looked around. The maidservant had been dismissed, and the nun by the door did not move. Father Vincent stared at the crucifix on the wall as if in deep conversation with God. Furious at the insult, the monk started to walk to the stool, intending to bring it to his prioress. "I prefer to stand," Tyndall's leader replied. Thomas stepped back. The firmness in her voice delighted him, for the quiet rebuke it suggested, but he grew concerned when he saw her tense jaw and narrowed eyes. Some might conclude she was angry, but he knew better. His prioress was in pain, and he knew the cause. On the day of their arrival, and against his counsel, she had dismounted from her donkey, removed her shoes, and walked the last sacred mile into Walsingham. Seeing a prioress of high birth humble herself so, several of her fellow travellers emulated her, a gesture that proved quite agonizing to some. His prioress had suffered most. Her choice of penance was admirable, but he feared the results. Sister Anne had not accompanied them, and by the time they reached Rye Hill's entrance he had seen blood on one of her feet. He hoped this priory had healers more skilled in their arts than Prioress Eleanor was in courtesy. "Your monk has disrupted the peace of this priory by bringing us very disagreeable news," the Prioress of Rye Hill said, glancing at him with open disapproval. Thomas bit his tongue at the implied rebuke. Surely that dead nun would have chosen not to suffer a cruel death, and he knew he would have preferred not to have found her broken body. Neither of them had wanted this tragedy to happen. Of the three, he concluded that this priory had suffered the least. Ursel cleared her throat. "He has said—" "I would hear Brother Thomas speak for himself." Ursel's eyes narrowed. Eleanor's grey eyes took on the hue of storm clouds. "As you will, but all speculation is unwarranted. I insist he keep to the facts of what he found. Those are grievous enough." Prioress Eleanor raised an eyebrow, then gave her monk permission to speak. "As Father Vincent's guest, I sleep in his chambers attached to the chapel next door to this priory." The priest turned away from his contemplation of the wall and scowled at the monk. "The Shrine of the Virgin's Lock. Call it by its proper name, brother." Thomas bowed with intended courtesy, but suspected his eyes betrayed a contrary attitude. Father Vincent swiftly renewed his contemplation of the crucifix. "While it was still dark, I awoke, and, unable to fall back asleep, walked outside." The priest muttered. His words may have been inaudible, but his pursed lips made his censure plain. Thomas felt anger spark. Did this man find all mortals worthy of frequent rebuke, or just him? His mouth suddenly dry with indignation, he longed for wine or ale to moisten his throat, but suspected a man could beg for succour in this room, and death would arrive faster than charity. Calming himself, he continued. The street was quiet, empty of men, and the only light came from the nearby inn. A moment later I heard a woman scream from the direction of the Priory bell tower. Fearing she had been attacked, I rushed down the road, hoping to prevent a theft being committed or other great injury. Father Vincent inclined his head to Prioress Eleanor.